In this video, I'm going to do a deep dive of the financial results for Archi Demo code. March has rolled around and Archi Demo is in the thick of it. We've had a bit of a hiccup on stage 2 of 52 Smith Street. Bunyip Hills Hospital's coming along nicely, and 72 Dillon Avenue started this month. Anyway, sit back, grab a cuppa and enjoy the video as I pull together all the information and overlay the profit metrics framework so we can see what our next step is. The profit metrics framework provides a structured and strategic overlay so you don't miss anything when you're trying to figure out what's going on with the business. It enables us to answer 3 very important questions. Are we on track to meet our target? If not, why aren't things going to plan? And where are things heading in the future? But before we can get to that point, before we can even start doing our analysis, there is a bunch of things that we need to check, bunch of work that needs to be done in the background before we can be satisfied that our results have accounting integrity and are correct. That's important because you'll never be able to work out if you're on track if you don't know where you are now. And nothing derails a board meeting quicker than reports you can't rely on. The first step is to make sure we're happy that the balance sheet is bulletproof. And after that, there's a bunch of reports we can go through to understand the relative performance in the P&L. Finally, once we're comfortable with the actual results, we want to have a good look at our forecast to give us comfort that we're going to hit our sales target, have the right amount of people to deliver the work, and we're not going to run out of cash. Once all this work's done, we'll be in a great position to have an insightful strategic discussion in the boardroom about our future goals and decide what we're going to do to keep things on track. Without having all this information and having confidence that it's right, you simply can't have these discussions. Okay, let's get into it. So the first thing is to make sure that the balance sheet is bulletproof before we can be confident in any of the other numbers we're looking at. And we do that by going through the balance sheet, account by account, to prove up or substantiate the balances, tying them back to source documents where they're available. There's a couple of areas that are a little bit different because they're integrated with the GL in Xero, but you need to check to make sure that nothing's broken. So we'll go through all the bank reconciliations and make sure that they've all been reconciled. Look at our aged receivables and aged payables reports. Looking here for anything that's getting old out here, which at this stage everything looks pretty good. We've got this one here from JKL. But other than that, the overall position's gone up by about 150 grand. Even though we've collected some of the older stuff, there's been some pretty big stuff come through in the current month. And the reason we're looking through here at this older stuff is we want to find out if there's going to be any impact on our cash flow forecast because customers aren't paying their... We have to look at the fixed assets separately, make sure that the asset register balances with the balance sheet. And then for the rest, we've got things like the prepayments account where we've got our software licensing, our PI insurance, subscriptions, all those sort of things there. We balance all that up. We'll look at the loans and make sure that they are all balancing. And finally, we need to work our way through the work in progress. We do that by reviewing the time and billing and job costing reports. Now we've reduced our WIP by 77,000 for the month. But the bad news was that that was essentially tied up with 52 Smith Street, where we've only progressed the percentage complete 5%. We've been able to look at the cost to complete and work out end of March, there's still 55% of that job to do. So even though we've sort of jumped in and got ahead in the program, we've now realised that a lot of that stuff is going to need to be redone. So that's really hurting us. So we've brought the WIP down, but at the same time, it's a bit like a double whammy, this one, where our team are redoing things that we've already recognised as revenue. So not only do we not earn money for it, but it blocks them out from doing other work. Bunyip Hills had a little bit of a catch up on its WIP. It's now at 95%. Dillon Street going along well. Cheap and Nasty Lawyers going along well. So there's not really much in there of concern other than 52 Smith Street. And it's the biggest job we've got on the boards at the moment. But we've got a few problems there that we need to get to the bottom of. Once we're happy with the balance sheet, we can now start to look into our P&L and start to trust these numbers more. Now, I've said this before, it's really easy to fly off on tangents and go down rabbit holes chasing after little things. So before we go chasing after that sort of detail, we really need to swoop over everything first at a high level or summary level first. And again, this isn't an exercise about finding out why we used more imaginary pens and pencils or paper than we budgeted. It's about understanding what's happened and working out how that affects the long term. To make this review a little bit easier, I've color coded things. So pink's the actual, green is the forecast, orange is the original budget, and purple is the revised budget at the end of last month. So the first of those summary level reports is the P&L versus actual versus budget summary. We don't want to get too bogged down in the variances, but we can see the result for the month was we lost $74 against our budget of $77,000. But year to date, $384 is still better than what we budgeted at $319. So we're 20% or $64,000 better year to date at the end of March than we budgeted. So that's really about what's happened now and what's happening for the future. We can go to this 12-month summary and we see that at this stage we're forecasting to finish up at 4.9 million, so a little bit less on a capacity basis in terms of revenue. But overall the profit is actually going to finish up better off. That said, we have dropped back about $68,000 on what our reforecast was in the last month, and that'll be primarily due to that 52 Smith Street catching up problem that we've had to address. The next thing we want to do is have a look at our KPIs. These show the trends within the operations, and the big ones are the utilization. For the month it was only 54%, and year to date is 66.9%. The multiplier for the month was 2.74 versus our 2.8 budget, and that means year to date we're sitting on 2.814. So multiplier is looking pretty good. Got the overheads, the fixed overheads are under, the variable overheads are slightly over by $700. There's nothing really in there that screams out, so it's probably more of a timing thing. So in this first swoop, we really just want to get a perspective on how we're going against our plan and if there's any obvious problems. The next thing we want to do is dive a bit deeper and start to go through those variances. And here we want to understand why things are different and what impact they have on the future. So we'll firstly go to our year-to-date P&L variance. We can go through here again, direct cost overheads, line by line. We can see that our fixed overheads are slightly under, variable overheads are slightly over, but they cancel out almost to within about $2,000. Again, we want to have a look at this full year forecast versus the original budget. So here's that analysis there. We're really looking for here to try and hone in on where the problems are. And in this case, I don't really think there are any problems in our year to date or our full year. It's now come down to the next couple of months. We've got to win about $400,000 worth of the unsecured stuff, convert it to secured, and execute it by the end of the year. Now, the next thing we want to do is segue across and check out this 4.9 forecast, capacity forecast, against what's likely in our revenue pipeline. And this was updated just the other day, but we can see here March has come in below net of work in progress, and that seems to be a bit of a reflection of evening back the February stuff. But our full year pipeline is at 5.039 million, so we're expecting to earn at 2.95 for the rest of the year, which is 105% realisation rate against our 2.8 multiplier budget. So this is saying that we're stretching ourselves a little bit beyond capacity. There's no reason why we can't earn at 3. We budgeted at 2.8 because that's been around about our traditional multiplier rate. But there's no reason why we can't do that. But it still hinges on securing these May jobs here, May and June. We've got 200,000 in unsecured. We've got another 150, so there's 357, call it 400, that we're chasing through this May-June period to firm up into the green stuff, in secured. If we deliver on that, then we should finish up the year pretty much as we're expecting in the forecast here, you know, round about the 5 million, round about 600,000 net profit. So there we go. Year to date, we're traveling a little bit better than budget. We've got enough work in the pipe that if we can deliver it, we'll finish up the year slightly ahead of budget. Now that we've done all of this work, we can button this up and turn this into a board pack for our directors so that the next time we have a directors board meeting, we can have an insightful strategic discussion. So if you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe button, tell your friends about it. There's plenty more updates coming for Archi Demo Co in the future. And if you'd like any more information, jump on our website, www.custodianbackoffice.com, and there you'll find plenty of resources that'll help you get started with better financial management in your architecture practice. I'm David Dillon from Custodian Back Office. Thanks very much for watching.